In this video we are going to look at making a score counter. So I've started this by creating a little icon already. I've imported this asset from flat icon, and you can see it's 64 by 64 and it's just a little coin with a star in the middle of it. So what we need to do now is make the object. So what we're going to do is right click on objects. I'm going to go to create, and then we're going to go down to object. Now this is my first collectible, so I'm going to say O collectible, or I could even call it O star, because essentially it's the same thing here, S star and O star. Now once I've named it, I'm going to bind the sprite together, and you can see now O star belongs to S star. Now what we need to do is we are going to add a collision with the object O player. So when the player collides with the star, it's going to do something. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add one of these var blocks, and we're going to use an inbuilt variable called score. Now the reason I'm using this is score is accessible throughout the game, so I don't need to make it global and I don't need to parameter pass because it'll do it for me. So I'm using the variable score, and we're also going then to give it a value of 1 and relative. That means each time we pick up one of these coins, it's going to add 1 to the score. Now just to be mindful, what some people do, they use this option here, which is set score and get score. I typically don't use these. I like using the variable here score, and I'll explain why in probably a future video. Now once you've done that, we also then need to get rid of the object. Now I'm going to show you what's going to happen if you don't get rid of the object, and we'll come back to this in a moment. Now the next thing we need to do is display the score. Now for this I am going to make a new object again, and for this object we're going to call it O Game Manager. Now if this is the first level, you want to maybe say O Game Manager L1, obviously second, L2, or if you're going to use one game manager throughout, that's fine. Now the purpose of a game manager is to hold things like your lives and the score and be able to display them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say add event, and we're going to go to draw, and I'm going to go to draw GUI. Now once we've done that, we're going to look down this list, and we're going to click on draw value and drag it in. Now you'll notice a few things. If I just zoom this in, you have something called caption, which is in speech marks, and then you got value. Now if I change the caption to score, notice I've put a capital S here because this is a label, it doesn't matter. But in the bottom here, the value, I have to use the built-in variable score, and notice it's lowercase. Now what you can do is you can change the color of this score if you use the paint bucket from here, and I'm going to set this to be black. Now you can set the color by clicking on the color there and choosing any color you want. By default it's normally white. Now my walls are currently yellow, so obviously a light yellow against a white is going to be difficult to see, henceforth why I'm colouring it black at this moment in time. Now once you've done that, you're going to need to add the game manager into the room, and we're also going to need to add the stars into the room as well. So what I'm going to do is double click on the room, we're going to add in a new layer, and we're going to call this one manager. And we're going to add another layer in, and we're going to call this one collectibles. Now the first thing, I'm going to click back on the manager and just drag this game manager, and I can leave it go anywhere. Now you'll notice because it hasn't got a sprite attached to it, it comes up with a question mark. That's absolutely fine, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to switch back to my collectibles layer and just drag a few collectibles in. And all I'm doing is I'm putting them around the maze there. Now when we come to play and look, there is going to be a slight issue. So you can see my game's loaded, and what we're going to do is we're going to go and collect one of these items. Now you can see my score is just increasing and increasing, and every time I hover over it, it's increasing all the time. And the reason for that is we haven't told this object to disappear, and this is something you will need to do. So what we're going to do is go back now to our O star, and in this code where we've got score 1 relative, we're just going to add in a little destroy instance. And what this does is it's going to take this out of the game. So when we play, as we go down and we go over, it takes it out of the game, and we only get 1 added to our score. Now the score is by default in the top corner because I haven't changed it. I'll show you how to change that now in a moment. But you can see there now the score has worked quite well, and we can see we've got a score with a value of 5 because we picked up 5 different objects. Now if you want to move the score to say the center, or maybe the other side, or maybe you want to put it at the bottom, or maybe we can put it over here, you can do it in a number of different ways. Now if I go back to my game manager, you'll notice in this draw GUI value we have an X and a Y position. Now if I move this over, let's say 600, and then press play, what you'll notice is that then will move over into nearly the middle of the screen. Now if you want to move it down a little bit, you can then alter the Y value. So if we say 10 on the Y, press play, you can see now it's moved down ever so slightly. Now in a later video I'll show you how to actually change this text to make it a little bit bigger, and also change the font style as well. If you did want to get a position but you didn't know where it was, if you double click on the room, in the bottom corner here you have a grid reference, and this grid reference is basically telling you where the mouse pointer is. So if, let's say for example, we wanted to put the score in this bigger box here, I know by looking at the grid reference it's 645 by 603. So if I did say 650 by 600, what it would do is put it down there for me here. And likewise, if I need to move it back then to the top, I can probably move this back down to 10, and we can then move that, I'll say 610 just as an example. So you can see then it's moved back towards the top. There are also 1 or 2 built-in functions we can use. So as an example, if I wanted to get this into the center, I could say room underscore width, which is a built-in variable, divided by 2, and then play. And what that will do is it'll put it into the center. Now the way this works is it puts it into the center based on the leftmost letter. If we want to get this central, what we need to do is add in another block, which is here, text alignment. And if I drag this in first, and then we horizontal line and vertical align, let's do the center and middle. Now press play. What you'll find then is that now is in the center of that position, and you can still then move it down a little bit if you need to, just by altering and adjusting this value here. So if we go down to say 15, we can alter it then a little bit more. Now in the next tutorial we are going to look at increasing the font size and making a different font for this.